Download the AllStar app. Make your picks for UFC fights, challenge your friends, level up and win prizes. Link in description. Get it now.
Cody, you're in Las Vegas, man. Let's talk about this training camp. Let's start with that one.
Yeah, after my last fight, I was just knew I needed to change something up and just get better looks from guys, build my confidence back up, and remind myself that I train harder than most of these guys. I have a mental, my mental, what's the word? I just have a mentality that I feel like a lot of guys don't have. Some do. There's some tough guys here for sure, but not everybody. Especially the younger guys. That's what I'm learning, man. They don't train like us old guys. But no, so I just needed to change it up a little bit, and my management had some connections here in Vegas. I knew some people, obviously, in the UFC MMA world, so I started talking to people and making arrangements, and I actually came out here a few weeks back for a week and did all the diagnostic testing at the PI and got stem cells. And so I was just kind of giving it a test run at first, and then I really enjoyed my time here. And so now I'm out here for a few more weeks, and it's been nice because most fighters, if any fighters listen to this, they'll know what I'm talking about. But when you've got a 10-week camp and you schedule it out and you're looking at your workouts and your workload essentially, by week 6, 7, 8, you're getting a little tired. You can get very it's the same practice on Tuesday morning, every Tuesday morning, and it's the same. And especially in my case, like the same workout partners every day. We only have a small team, so we've got we all got to be there. And so for me, just the ability to be at home for a few weeks and put in full effort and focus on training, and then come out here for a few weeks and do the same thing. It just kind of keeps it fresh, and so I'm having a really good time.
All right, let's go back to that thing you said about the younger fighters compared to the older guys. There's like what?
Man, I don't know. It's just I feel like older fighters. I don't know. I just maybe it's just me. I don't know. I just feel like some of these guys are a little soft and go a little light. And I've trained with some great guys, but don't get me wrong, that are workhorses. So, um, but that's just an observation I've noticed over the years. Like younger fighters, you don't know what you don't know. And sometimes their confidence and ego get in the way of their ability to improve. And so I got a cat with me here. He never leaves me alone.
So Vegas. You mentioned that your management reached out to some people. You knew some people out there. Like, what is the cast and crew? I've been seeing you upload some pictures. I've been seeing some pictures flying. You do have a pretty solid group of guys with you.
Yeah, and that's just what I've been doing, like my small group stuff at the PI. My former opponent, Aljamain Sterling, we've kind of remained friends ever since we fought, which is over a decade ago. And so he invites me in to work out with. And I like that small group. You get to work on specific things, and like tonight, for example, we were, what does your opponent throw? We wore the small gloves and back and forth. Okay, I'm going to throw those things at you. It wasn't like a sparring match. It was like, get used to that punch or that angle or that setup, because it's one that your opponent goes to a lot. So you got to rep it. You got to be able to see that. So that's been really great. And then a lot of training at Extreme Couture. I'm not like a picture guy. Like I don't take a lot of pictures. Um, so the pictures I've got from Vegas are like other guys are like, hey, let's take a photo, and then they send it to me, because I'm like, especially at a gym that's not your gym, you're not going to be like, hey guys, everybody bring it in, take a photo. I'm just like, nah, I'm good. But yeah. And then I'm doing strength and conditioning at the PI as well. And even when I go home, I still have the same strength and conditioning coach. He just sends me my plans, and I have a trainer at home who kind of helps me implement them. But it's the same system based on my diagnostic testing, and I love that stuff. I love looking at numbers and then you have something you're shooting for in training, because you're like, I want to get better at X because the numbers showed I need to. That's a deficit. And so for me, like, the more scientific I can get with it, the better. And the PI is all about that. So it's been really nice.
Anything the results from the test that you taken at the PI that surprised you?
No, to be honest with you, not really. I've always considered myself like a marathon runner in a sport full of sprinters. Like, most of these guys are like fast twitch; they could explode off a whistle. But you start dragging them into deep waters, and some of them sink, and some of them swim. Brad Katona swam. Um, but my plan every fight is to exhaust you with pressure, and yeah. So I mean, that's pretty much what I found out. I have really good cardio when it comes to the long term duration stuff. Um, but I'm stuff though. It's kind of the training areas, and then being able to see a therapist every day, like every morning, like that's freaking pretty nice. So keeping my body loose and doing all the recovery stuff I have access to here. So I'm trying to do everything I can, man. This is a big fight for me. I got to win to stay here, to stay in this game and do what I want to do, which is on a shit ton more fights and a lot of bonuses. So starts July 20th for me.
Yeah, the stem cells, how is it utilizing that science and like how has it affected you?
I've got stem cells twice now. I got them on the Ultimate Fighter when I had a fight with a torn MCL, and then so that was kind of hard to tell, like, because I literally got the stem cells and fought a couple weeks later, but it didn't feel good. And then I had like a long road of recovery when I got home, and then you go through that long road of recovery, and you're like, damn, I fought, like, you know, like this hurts, like I can't do anything. And but the adrenaline starts going in a fight, and it takes over. But this time, yeah, I mean, anything to avoid surgery, and for me, like, I just, the worst thing that could happen is some long surgery I have to go through again. I've done them before, and so the fact that the UFC is willing to help us get access to stem cells, man, I'll take up that offer anytime they give it to me. So I wish they'd just say, hey, let me go in and just throw them all over my body. Just throw some in my shoulders, my knees, my back. Just load me up with them. Like, because they do help. I mean, it's hard to tell because you don't know what the alternative is. Like, how would I feel if I hadn't got the stem cell? You don't really know, but I've definitely seen improvements since I got them. So, yeah, man, I'm all about the stem cells.
Nice. Now let's get into the fight coming up against Brian Kelleher. There's a lot on the line. What does this fight mean to you heading into it?
Yeah, man, I feel like I let myself down. I let a lot of people down, even though they wouldn't look at it that way in my last fight. And I never make excuses for fights. You could point to different things that were going on in my life as to why I wasn't really there. But at the end of the day, like, I signed a contract. I'm telling the world I can beat this guy on this day. I'm going to show up at this weight. It's my job to either I can or I can't. That's the reality of the situation, no matter what's going on. And so, I was just disappointed in my performance. I don't mind losing fights. I've lost enough of them. But I want to perform to my best potential, especially the amount of work you put in to get to the fight night. And I just feel like it was the first time in my career. I've had some off performances, but this was the first time I really just felt like I just didn't show up. I didn't have the energy. And so for me, this fight that's coming up now is redemption. It's proving to myself that I belong here. I spent 8 years removed from the UFC. I was in the UFC in 2014 and 15. and it took me 8 years to get back, and it wasn't an easy road, and I went through a lot of tough guys and the Ultimate Fighter and all this stuff. And now that I'm back, I don't want to wash out. I want to have I understand I'm older, but I want to have 10, 15 fights over the next couple of 3, 4 years. I don't know, however long I can do it,
Yeah.
and give some good fights, give some good performances, get some big wins. And so, yeah, for me, this fight's make or break, man. If I lose, there's probably a likely possibility I get cut. And I don't plan on my career ends when my UFC tenure ends. I've done it all before, so I wanna keep going, man. I feel good mentally, in a lot better place, and yeah, I want to keep going. So it's an important fight. You always think a fight's important, but for me personally, I just got something to prove to myself and the fans and everybody that I belong here, and yeah, that's the plan.
Brian, ahead of his last fight against Cody Garbrandt, he had a near career-ending neck injury, right? He had the surgery, he came back and fought. For yourself, what was the worst injury to come back from?
I mean, luckily, I never had a serious surgery. Um, there in my shoulder, just a long process back from the one I had in my bicep, wait for healed, and finally physiotherapy, and I could get back to training, and then boom, I required surgery. And so that window, and on top of that, it was right after COVID. Um, I'm sorry, it was right before COVID. So it was in 2019. I had both those surgeries, and so coming out of that, a year goes by, you don't fight, and then I'm thinking 2020 is my year, man. I'm coming back. I'm gonna get 3 or 4 fights, and then COVID hits. So that was a rough patch for me. That was a rough period mentally, and wondering if my career might have been over. So for me, that was the worst. But yeah, neck injuries, back injuries. Those are the ones that that are worrisome.
Definitely worrisome. Um, the skill set, Brian's skill set, stacking up against yours. I mean, you're a much like longer, rangier fighter than him. What do you think of his style?
I think he's solid, man. He's got good kickboxing. He does a lot of good switch stance stuff, and he's tricky. He's got a couple setups that he's really good at. And then he lands a lot in fights, and yeah, I think he's solid. I think we'll test him in all areas. I'm sure I'll be trying to take him down at some point. I'm sure I'll be striking with him at some point. So, that's the fun of this. You get to go out and you get to see where you stack up against the guy, and I'm confident that I'm the better fighter, and as long as I show up and perform, that I can walk away with not only my hand raised but a finish. That's always the goal, and so yeah, I'm excited about it. But he's a tricky guy. He's a tough guy. I know he's lost a few in a row, but they've been all the top contenders. This is rankings wise, this is a step down in competition for him. So I'm sure he's looking at it like that. Like, all right, give me somebody who doesn't have a number next to their name, and I can win some more fights. But I think I'm the wrong guy for him. I think I'm too long, and once I get going and put my foot on the gas, I think, yeah, I don't know. We'll see. Should be fun.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely going to be a fun fight, man. Two guys that have been through it all throughout their career, and now it's getting to the point where you're like pretty much in the same position, and you guys are fighting for that. Yeah, it's always great. Fighting is it's it's good and bad in that way. You know what I mean? Like I don't know, it's hard to explain because if you don't know fighting, then you just have no idea of like what position certain fighters are in. But anyways, it's gonna be a great fight. I just wanted to ask you one more question before I let you go about I don't know if you know him. Do you know Jeff Craig?
Jeff, who?
Yeah, he posted something because man, he's a guy that I felt like should have been signed by the UFC a long time ago. Very talented guy, a guy that's been fighting the best guys on the regional scene. He actually, he's won titles as well. And he posted saying that, man, the UFC, they don't want you to fight the toughest guys on the regional scene. They just want you to finish guys. So just take the easiest. Basically, he said just take the easiest matchups and build the streak and get into the UFC. What do you think of that? You're a guy that's been through everything.
I mean, I get it. like if you look at the Contender Series, you got guys that are, typically, 5-0, 6-0, 6-1, 7-2, and they got a lot of finishes. But that's usually, if you look at most fighters, go down their Tapology and their percentages of finishes, you're always going to get the biggest cluster of finishes early in your career when you're fighting lesser competition. It gets exponentially harder to finish guys as they get better because guys know what they're doing, So the problem with the whole, like, I'm going to go pad my record with 5 or 6 easier fights, the problem with that is that what happens when you get in the UFC, and they're not easy fights anymore. But the flip side is if you take tough fights outside the promotion when you're coming up and you lose, every time you lose, it's a reset. You've got to go on another string usually to get a call. So, there's a yin and a yang to it, and I don't know the answer, but I know that what I did, and that was not take easy fights early on. I was fighting UFC guys early on, and I wasn't ready to. I learned quickly that there were levels to this, and yeah, man, everybody. I mean, the path today is so much different than the path when I was doing it early on, like the social media component, and I mean, we just trained in the gym and we're sweaty all the time, and people probably thought we were gross,
For sure, man. It has changed. It has changed in the past 10 years of like the path to major promotions. Not even the UFC though, it's just the major promotions. And like you said, there's people getting signed with no pro fights by major promotions, which is the wildest thing to me. But hey, it is fighting, man. Just they never have rules. So man, July 20th, man. You're gonna follow the rules in the cage, and you're gonna have a hell of a fist fight with Brian Kelleher, man. It's gonna be a good fight, man. I'm excited for this one, and all the best to you, man. I hope to your best abilities, man, because at the end of the day, that's what you want to do.
Yes, sir. And I'm still planning my trip to Thailand. It's gonna happen. I'm bringing my whole family out. We're going.
Yeah.
As soon as I get my next boatload of cash, I'm going to Thailand for like a month.